Rev up your engines! As usual, I'm talking about real cars for real people. This is the 2015 Subaru Forester. The guy bought it brand new, and he's been pretty happy with it. The AC has been a little bit odd for him. He changed the air filter and the cabin air filter. He said it's working better, but he's not sure. So we're going to check that out. But if we look at the car overall, now originally for years it got 27.6 miles a gallon. It went down, but it was a dirty air filter. Now it's 26.7. It's getting older, but you have to comprehend it is an all-wheel drive vehicle. Almost all their vehicles are all-wheel drive. Just a little sports car is only two-wheel drive. But you get an all-wheel drive, kind of crossover SUV, you're going to get lower gas mileage. Now, of course, they lied to him when he bought it. You can see it's a partial zero emissions car. And they said it was 32 miles a gallon, which of course is nonsense. He's a conservative driver. He got 27.6, which is good for one of these vehicles of that size, all-wheel drive. But don't ever believe any of that crap on an SUV with all-wheel drive. Because if you remember, a couple years ago, when I was in Texas, Lexus gave me one of their brand new SUVs. It was all-wheel drive. It was only a four-cylinder engine. This is only a four-cylinder engine. They said it was rated at 36 miles a gallon, and I got 24 miles a gallon on the highway in eco mode. Now, granted, I was going between Houston and San Antonio and back, and the speed limit, some of the parts, is 75 to 80 miles an hour, but still, it said on the highway, it's rated at that, and it was horrible. So for what he's getting, that's good. You know, you're not going to get phenomenal gas mileage with all-wheel drive vehicles. The only thing that you can get efficiency on that is if you went to an electric vehicle. Now, look under the hood. Boxer four-cylinder engine, two cylinders there, two cylinders there, kind of the Volkswagen original style. It's got all the amenities, anti-lock brakes, air conditioning, and he hasn't had a problem with any of that stuff. The only thing really had to change was the battery. They're only going to last so long. And it's still in excellent shape. He hasn't been running into anything. It does have a lot of space, especially when you go in the back. Then you got the little hatch in the back. You can drop the seats, have a lot of room. But you better watch it here because we're real close to Boston. And he's a Yankees fan. It's cool memory height, so everything is set the way you want. You can turn the traction control off if you want. It's got a big old sunroof, moonroof, whatever you want to call it. And since it's a bit older, hey, he just put his own Garmin stuff on. Still got the factory radio on it, but showing its age. Still got a CD player, AM, FM, but it does have XM stuck in it. The old vehicle doesn't have what you want. Yeah, just plug it all in the cigarette lighter. He's got his own system set up here. You can make your own plugs, plug them in. But it isn't enough to have a keyless system. There's no key, so we'll start her up. Starts right up. It's got that Subaru noise, the sound that the Boxer engines make. And he was wondering about the AC system. So, we'll put the AC on. Full blast. Turn it down as low as we can. There's low. It's got dual controls. We'll get all our AC gauges, hang them up here. Now, you can't hook them up backwards because they're different ends, but it's a good idea. This is marked. Here's the low side. It says L for low. Hook them up. Now you notice the pressure doesn't say anything because you got to open the gauge up first to get the pressure reading. And now you see, there's the pressure reading. But it's so cold out now, it's not running yet. So you got to wait till it turns itself on because when it's cold out, they don't run all that much. So already we'll put the high side so we can read both sides. Now you can see the high sides working, and the high sides, it's almost 100 pounds. And as cold as this outside, it's normal stationary pressure. You can see the compressor's not turning, it's just sitting there. When it turns on, the pressure will go up. Okay, now we'll turn it on, we'll see if it comes on. And you can see now it's coming on. The pressure's now gone up, and it's about 160 pounds pressure. And the low side is only about 20, there we go, now it's kicking, 20, well now it's turning off, it'll go up, and that'll go down, which is normal. I can tell by the low side pressure, it's a little bit low, meaning that this system needs a little bit of refrigerant, but it's so cold, he's gonna have to wait until it gets hot outside to add it. I can look it up in my old data, but if you look here, it tells you right here, it takes between 16 and 18 ounces, which isn't much. I remember back in the 60s, some of these things held 4 or 5 pounds of refrigerant. So what you do in this case is, when it gets hot outside, you have the entire system evacuated, take it to a vacuum for half an hour. Then you put that amount of ounces in. Now, this one lives on the East Coast, so I'd go max on that, which is 18 ounces. Now, interestingly enough, say you live in the Southwest, live in Texas where I used to live. In that case, you'd be better putting 16 instead of 18, the lower limit. And that's because when it's super hot outside, you're much better. You got a place where it gets to be 100 degrees and 99% efficiency. To have it a little bit lower, they work better. I know guys that lived in Phoenix, Las Vegas, they always had to put a little bit less, because if they filled it the whole way, they had a tendency of overpressurizing the system and things would wear out and blow much faster. But this is living in a cold climate. It lives in Connecticut, so I would put 18 back in when it's warm outside. Like I said, I wouldn't do it right now. Now I truly understand why he's got complaints. He's got complaints because it's a little low on refrigerant. And if you remember what I always tell people, all AC compressors that are belt driven like this, when the shaft spins, there has to be a seal on the shaft that spins the compressor. The shaft spins inside the compressor, and that seal on the end is a perfect seal. It would burn out in a few hours because it would be dry on metal and it would burn out. It's made deliberately to leak a little AC refrigerant and AC oil to lubricate the seal so it doesn't run dry. They all leak to some extent. Now, some are better than others. My '07 Matrix, for example, I just put some refrigerant in it. It took all those years, and it was still working pretty good, but I realized it must have leaked out, so I evacuated and put in a full load. But I've seen Subarus, Hondas, that sometimes once every 5 or 6 years you got to add some because they leak a little bit more. It's nothing outrageous, but don't get ripped off by guys saying, oh, you need a new compressor, blah, 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 blah. Have the refrigerant level checked first, because if it's low, it's simple, cheap fix. You're not going to be sold a whole bill of goods that you don't need. So let's take this thing for a spin. Now, as you can see, it's a pretty high up vehicle. You got a good view. And here's our horrible Rhode Island roads. And actually, it doesn't ride all that bad. Now, here we go. And you can see, hey, it's not a race car, but it's got plenty of get up and go. It's going down the road. And as you can see, when you turn, it's very nice, tight turning. It's a very stable platform. Now, he's got V-pattern climate tires on this, and he doesn't even put snow tires on in the winter, and it works fine. Now, if you listen, you can hear a little bit of noise in the tires. They're not as quiet as the others, but he doesn't care. I mean, hey, just like me, when you get older, you don't hear things anyways. All right, so here we go. We've got a Subaru with 77,000 miles on it. The guy's been real happy with it. It changes the oil and the battery, and now he needs a little refrigerant. That is it. Now, he's got to take his wife to work in the morning. With the all-wheel drive, he never gets stuck. I love these tires because you can see they got the aggressive V pattern. And although they're not actual snow tires, with the all-wheel drive, he has no problems at all. They're called Michelin Cross Climate. I gotta say, I'm impressed. Now, he used to race cars, so he knows a lot about cars. All-wheel drive is all-wheel drive, but if you don't have the right tires, it's not gonna work right. He did a lot of research, and he's real happy with these tires all year long. Yeah, if you're really sensitive and you listen close, you can hear a little bit more road noise. It's not all that much, but realize, any mid-size SUV, high up in the air, they make noise. None of them are really quiet, so it doesn't really make all that much difference. So now you know the truth about this Forester made in Japan. Been a great vehicle for him. He's happy with it. Not much maintenance at all. And here's some bonus questions and answers. Munning says, I have a 2020 Camry Hybrid LE with 60,000 miles. Why can I leave my trunk open and lock the car? It's a convenience feature. Most Toyota vehicles have always been made that way. My wife's 2002 Lexus ES300 is that way. You can lock the car, but you can have the trunk open. And that's so you can lock your car and then get the groceries out with having to turn the alarm on and off again. It's just the way that they're set up. And to me, it makes total sense because what do you want? Every time you open the trunk, you got to unlock the car, turn the alarm off, pop the trunk, and the alarm will stay on in the car. And then when you close, you don't have to set it all up over again. They made it convenient for people. It's a good system and it works totally fine. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.